are back with another episode of Ski's Opinion. I am your gracious and humble host, Ski, and we came to talk about what's been happening in the world as of late, right? Now I'm having problems. I've been trying to um, get this thing acclimated. Y'all gotta give me a second to figure this all out. I mean, I'm very new. So what's going on here? So trying to figure it out as we go. 1 second. I apologize, you guys. I just gotta do some things. Get some stuff acclimated. Easy. All right. All right. So, like I said, this is in Ski's opinion. I'm gonna start off the show today with what everybody's, I guess, been talking about as of late, and that would be the Diddy sentencing, right? We're gonna start with Diddy being sentenced to 50 months, guys. 50 months in prison, federal prison, for the Mann Act, soliciting prostitution. Never heard of anybody getting over 4 years for soliciting prostitution, but I kind of figured that they was gonna make an example out of the brother because of them not giving him a bond to prepare himself for the sentencing and to actually, do some things that get him at a spot where he can do more public work, put himself in a better, situation and have an opportunity to present himself in a better light. So I kind of figured that was going to happen, but we got to get into the getting a whole production together to present his case to the judge and to the courts on why he should be let loose. So the funny part of it was that he had um, his lawyers play a his lawyers play a let's say his lawyers play a basically a documentary, all his uh say accomplishments as a father, a man, um, a philanthropist, all of these things, right? To present, and then he break down crying in the middle of it, and he break down in the middle of it, and he like say start crying. You know, he put on the theatrics or whatever, right? And he's like um, wiping his eyes, and you know, he put on the show or whatever they said. You know, they could show up in there, and then you know, I guess he spoke for himself. He sent a letter about it's been hard for him to stay quiet through all of this, and he don't understand why he's going through all what he's going through, and how uh, he's changed and he's seen the error of his ways. He apologized to Cassie, you know, wholeheartedly, and you know, apologized to Jane, saying, you know, he's sorry he brought her into this or whatever, right? So he had his kids up there. They spoke. I'm not gonna say that their situation is fake. I'm not gonna say that their situation was you can call that. I'm not gonna say a situation was staged, right? I'm quite sure they went over what they was gonna say before they said what they said, but I think that those was heartfelt, you know, tears and heartfelt words that they spoke about, you know, what was going on with their dad. And to me, it seems like he was. It fell on deaf ears. You know, those letters or whatever that Cassie and them wrote must have been strong enough to make sure that um, Diddy didn't get out yesterday, you know, and for them to give him 50 months, you know, or whatever in prison with, you know, I guess credit for the year that he's been in there. So about 3 years, 3.5 years, like about roughly 3 years, a little over 3 years, he's going to have to do. If it's 100%, I thought it was like 85% or something like that. I'm not sure. Um, Quote me on that one. But uh, people saying that they were shocked about it. I was kind of in the middle of it. I didn't think that they was gonna lock him up for 4 years. I didn't think that he was gonna get as much time as he got, but I also didn't think that he was getting out. Right. So it's kind of a somber, you know, outcome for him and for his family. Some of the stuff that they were saying, I think that was some truth to it. Do I always feel like he was remorseful for what he did? He was remorseful for what was going on. Um, I think having to sit there longer to think about everything that he did do probably would bring more clarity into that. I would say, but I'm not truly 100% sure that uh, Puff uh, really got it if he was to get out today. Um, but with that being said, I do feel like he's being made an example of, and if you go over past cases and previous cases before this, um, then you would say they're kind of being harsh on him. So Diddy's being um, pushed out there as an example, that celebrity can't get away with whatever. Which if depending on how you look at it, that could be a good or a bad way to look at the situation. So I'm gonna say um, it is what it is. I mean, he has to deal with it. I think he got 14 days to file an appeal. His lawyers already indicated that they was going to do that. So I would say that, yeah, Diddy probably got a shot at getting an appeal. He might be able to get it time lessened, well, I would think even, time served and, be able to do the rest of that on probation. Um, but that was the outcome, you guys. It's long drawn out saga of what's going on with Diddy and how Diddy won but lost the case, I would say, right? Now, give me a second. I'll grab my glass. Yeah. So that is what I have to say about the Diddy situation. I think that I'm going to let that go. Let's see, that I was trying to get some people in here to come join the live. They said they're having problems getting on the live. Don't know why that is happening, but the show has started, so I got to keep going. All right, so like I said, you guys, I got a new segment on here, the show that I'm calling History with Ski, right? So we're gonna do a little small history with Ski. So it kind of rotates off of what we're speaking of as far as Diddy situation and what's going on with him. This time with History with Ski, we're gonna go on a little lesson about how the Mann Act was created. I don't even say why the Mann Act was created. I'm gonna say how. Some of y'all might know that they created this law because of a black man, bold black man from the 1900s, early 1900s, I'm gonna say. He became he became the black heavyweight champion of the world, back in the early 1900s. He was the heavyweight colored champion of the world in 1908, I think, to 1914, because white men wouldn't fight black men. They said because we was inferior, but the truth was, I think that they were scared. So they refused to fight, this man who I'm talking about, and now I'm going to introduce his name. Some of y'all might know who I'm talking about already. Some probably won't. His name is Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson was the first black heavyweight champion of the world. And Jack Johnson was at the center of why the Mann Act was created, right? So Jack Johnson finally did get a shot to fight a white man, which was Jim Jeffries. He was the white champ. He was actually retired at the time, but he said he would never fight a colored man because they were inferior to him or whatever, right? But because Jack was out here doing what he was doing, and it became such a big uproar about, you guys proving that you are superior to black fighters. Someone needs to fight a black fighter. So they kept clawing and crying. They even called and had Jeffries come out of retirement so he could come fight this man. Jeffries came out of retirement, and they deemed him the great white hope, right? He was gonna come out to beat, Jack Johnson down and put these, colored men in their place, right? Well, they went and they had to fight, I think it was round 14 or 15. Jim Jeffries was knocked down for the first time of his career. By who, you guys? Jack Johnson, an inferior color man, right? And as he's getting up, proceeded to get up, the fight continued. Jack came in with another onslaught, knocking Jeffries through the rope, not only showing that he was much more superior and stronger, but he dominated this man. The man that they all felt like was going to be their savior. He was the great white hope, right? He was going to put things back in his place. But Jack became the first black man to become heavyweight champion of the world with that fight. And after he left the fight in the car with a white woman. He dated white women. He slept with white women. He traveled all across the country with white women. He even married two. But Jack Johnson was doing this. They couldn't figure out a way to stop it, because they didn't want that happening. They didn't want a black man with a white woman, right? And then not only just that, he was boastful about it. He put it out there for the world to see. He didn't care. He had no shame in what he was doing, and dared somebody to tell him not to. And who was going to tell Jack Johnson not to do what he wanted to do, right? So they came up with this law called the Mann Act, right? Where the Mann Act was set up for, where if you was to take a woman, any woman, nowadays how they're wording it, but back then, basically, this black man taking this white woman all across the country with him while he was having fights. And he was, for debauchery, they say, right? These was his women, these was his girlfriend. They performed, they engaged in sexual activities after, like everybody else did. So, but they made it out to like he was traveling and traveling these women around so he can do these things with them, right? Well, he was dating these women and he was a boxer. He traveled around the country. That's how he made his living. And if this woman was with him, just like anybody's woman, their wife or whoever, significant other, is going to come to the fights with them. They're going to travel with their man. But they made this a law to make this illegal for him to be able to do this because they're saying that he was traveling them around to do sexual deviance. So they created a whole law to try to stop this man from doing it. Didn't work. Jack continued to do what he was doing. He just left the country. He started fighting in Cuba and all over the world. And a place they didn't have a problem with, a black man being with a black woman. He was still able to fight. So he just left the country. And the women, guess what they did? They followed him. They followed him all around the country, right? So you didn't stop anything. But now they got this law in place to where they can do this to anybody at any time as they see fit, right? Jack Johnson was wealthy back in those days. He won titles, he was a prize fighter. So he had money to leave the country and be able to still live his life and live abroad or whatever. Well, most men who was actually doing this at this time, black men, I would say, they didn't have the means to do this, right? But because they were so mad at Jack, they came up with this law and it punished a lot of us. A lot of black men, to this day, are still a stigma, with black men being with white women. And it's looked down upon, it's frowned upon. Now, it's legal for, blacks and whites or Mexicans or whoever, the interracial can be married. So you can't just, come up with that law of saying I'm traveling, I'm flying my wife around everywhere to have sex. What you can't apply that to that. So that gives some leniency to that. But I just wanted to put some light on that. This is another history with Ski moment, a segment within a show in Ski's opinion. And I just wanted to put light on Jack Johnson. I think that Jack Johnson is somebody that young men, period, should look up to, because he was someone who didn't let the system or society define who he was going to be, who he could be, and be with. And I think that all of us should follow that. As people, whoever you want to be with, do what you want to do, as long as it's not bothering anybody. It bothered them because this black man was with a white woman, right? But it shouldn't have bothered anybody what he did in the privacy of his own home or rooms or with whoever he wanted to do it with. And he almost basically dared them to do something to him by still flaunting it in their face. They was never able to, stop him from doing what he was doing. Never. It cost him a lot. He had to leave his country. He wasn't able to make it much. He defended his championship abroad, because they had to come and see the champ. Somebody had to beat him to win that. But it tarnished his reputation in a way that it did hurt Jack Johnson being looked at as a special part of history. I'd say history now, more so than black history. To let people see why and what is going on in the world. And we still deal with a lot of it right now. So I'm champion Jack Johnson. I want you guys to even actually do some research. I say these things on here, and I'm going to start these segments on here to get people more aware of history, period. It's not going to just be black history, you guys. It's going to be history. History for everybody and everything. So, with that being said, I'm going to move on to my next topic. And the next topic I want to speak on is Tekashi 6ix9ine on Vlad TV. So you got 6ix9ine on Vlad TV doing this interview. Vlad says it's the most expensive interview, and I guess he paid him a boatload of money to come on the show, which makes sense to me. I think Tekashi is doing Tekashi. He's on the show and he's using every excuse in the book for all the things that he's done, right? And this is not even just the snitching part, you guys. Like he trying to justify him putting his hands on his child's mother before the snitching allegations, He justifying saying that she was sleeping around with Shadi or whatever, and this is why he beat on her, right? And she did this and that, betrayed him, right? And Shadi betrayed him, but you beat on her. You didn't do nothing to Shadi. You didn't come to your man or even talk to him about it. Which some people might say, you don't check the pimp, check the, So I guess, in that way, if you're looking at it from a street point of view, then he did the right thing, I guess. You could say that, as far as him not coming at Shadi. But I just found it very entertaining and funny to me that he has an excuse for everything he's done. There's no accountability. The only accountability that I did see him take was to say, yeah, I did it, but this is why I did it. So is it really accountability when you're saying that? If he's putting out there that I did it, but this is why I did it, right? I wouldn't have done it if they didn't do this. So that's not taking accountability for what you done. I beat on Sarah because she slept with Shadi, and that's neither here nor there. But I'm gonna say this, if the woman, does have sex with a man outside of it, if you're not willing to deal with it or it hurt too much to where you can't deal with it, you're always welcome to walk out of that door and leave the situation. You don't have to be with her. But you have Tekashi, make an excuse of why he did what he did with it, and you still don't leave the woman. You stay with it. You beat up on it, and then you still dealt with Shadi for a minute. You said that you started inching your way away from him at that point, right? You snitched on them because they were sleeping with your baby mom. The dude kidnapped you, this and that. Well, I'm going to say this, you joined the gang for street cred. And so your reputation could be boasted in the rap game as far as street stuff, right? Because this is what we do, Well, this is what, oh, shit, I'm sorry, y'all. This is what you do in order to achieve fame or whatever in the rap game, right? So he he came up with a reason why um came up with a reason why for that, oh yeah, such and such, you did this, and they did that to me, and this is why I done that, well, they kidnapped you, you know what I'm saying, because uh they wasn't getting the fair share they felt that they wasn't getting the fair share of what was going on as far as um in the money thing. Yeah, Shawty was not cutting them in enough, so they went to you. You was the money bag. You was basically the trick bag. You was paying to be a part of their group, right? But you participated in a lot of these crimes. Some of them you even enticed and instigated. And then you turned around and told. Just like with the guy Kuda or whatever. And then they said Kuda, right? Kuda may be. I'm not really sure now. I'm going to do a little bit more research on what's going on with that. Um, but he did whatever he did with you. And then you actually testified against the man. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you have to take accountability for being a snake. You have to take accountability for being weak. You have to take accountability for being you, which is a person that's um, a caricature of Daniel Hernandez, not 6ix9ine. Use the character. 6ix9ine is the caricature. Daniel Hernandez is a snake. Daniel Hernandez is not a stand-up man. Daniel Hernandez is a woman beater. Daniel Hernandez is a lot of things, right? And he's not taking responsibility or accountability for any of them, right? So that's what I'm gonna say on that part, and that's all I want to mention. Like, it just was hilarious to me that the man didn't take any accountability for nothing that he was doing on that interview. And Black paid him that much money to hear the same story that everybody already heard. So who don't know the 6ix9ine story? It's just stupid to me. But whatever. So next thing I'm gonna tap into is, and I don't know why I'm tapping into this clown, because he always been a clown to me, but I have to because it's entertaining. And what he did backfired on him in a way that I don't think he was expecting. This dude been able to say and put things out there for shock value and for clicks and whatever, to boost up whatever he's trying to sell or whatever he's trying to do. And this person is Ray J. You got Ray J being sued by the Kardashians. He did not expect for those women to come and attack him. He didn't expect for those women to come and put a suit on him for defamation for things that he said that they did. He's trying to make himself out to be a victim within the sex tape thing. The sex tape thing was something that you and that girl cooked up together. It got leaked, it got put out, they monetized it. You seen her use it to shoot herself into superstar, into the stratosphere, right? And then you got some props off of it too. Ray J, it helped you too. It brought no more notoriety to you other than you being Brandy's brother, right? Brandy's brother. But and then now you're trying to say that you was a victim. And you saying that they did these things and these things to make you sign off on releasing this sex tape. That you wasn't complacent and these things happened. You didn't sit down with them and come up with a plan on how y'all was gonna make this happen, right? She just figured out a way to monetize it and use it to actually help her better than it helped you. And I think that he's upset behind it, right? But it came back to bite him in his buttocks. Because they're suing him now. And you know that they got the money for lawyers that can really dig into this and prove everything that he said was a lie. And make him look stupid and maybe bankrupt this man. And I think everybody else now, even with them coming back with it, because usually they don't do this. They don't come out and defend themselves for stuff that people say about them. They just ignore it and keep it moving, right? But for them to actually file a suit on this man shows that you are totally lying, and they know they can prove it. And now, since you tried to defame their name, they're finna defame you. They're finna destroy you. Like everybody say that the Kardashians destroy men or whatever in this industry, but they are actually about to um, vehemently, right, and physically destroy this man for the BS that he tried to pull to get some fame or some clicks or some ads going to whatever new TV show he might be coming out with um, towards his projects at their expense. They wasn't going for it. So I want to see how this is going to end up. I want to see the outcome. Are they going to come up with a settlement? Is Ray J going to retract his statements? Or is he going to hold fast and keep acting as if he's right? So I will stay tuned on that. I know everybody else will too. So we guys see this, the outcome. We all going to watch it unfold together. That's all I got to say about that. Don't want to go too far into Ray J because he's not newsworthy to me. It's a trending topic right now because he's being sued for lying. But whatever. I hit it. Nothing. Shut up, nigga. You didn't. The other dude hit it first. But whatever. Next topic I want to go into, right, is Farrakhan. Honorable Louis Farrakhan, Minister Farrakhan, telling Trump that he cannot use the army against black communities, right? This is a serious thing, you guys. I made a video probably like, I'm going to say, a month or two ago. And in the video, I was speaking on Trump with the National Guard thing, talking about sending National Guards to Chicago. I spoke on Chicago because for anybody who does watch this show, in Ski's opinion, you guys know that I was born and raised in Chicago. Spent the first 20-something years of my life in the Chi. So that's my city, so I spoke on it. And I don't like to hear the rhetoric that he was mentioning as far as sending National Guards down there to clean up the crime or whatever. But I also was conflicted because it is so much stuff going on in Chicago. But I think I came back on and let it be known that I do not really agree with them sending the National Guards down there, because I think that it would have been a situation where they would have clashed, with these youngsters who are out here who's not really thinking soundly and don't even really have leadership to actually, steer them down the right path to even thinking soundly, So I'm going to say Trump has upped the ante. He went from talking about sending National Guards there to when they was talking about the Army the other day, talking about, using military in the country, and foreign domestic, and he made a statement that is very dangerous and scary, you guys. It's very authoritative. It's very alarming, I think. I think that everybody should be paying attention to how alarming it is that this man has put out a statement saying that maybe we should send the military, the Army, to some of these, send the Army to some of these cities as a training op for them. So basically, you mean to tell me that for military drills, right? So you're going to use the military, the most powerful fighting force on the planet right now, the U.S. military, into these communities and use it as a training op. So basically, you're gonna kill people because that's what you're gonna do. A training op, what? This is how you subjugate what? But this is the army. They're not the National Guards. Excuse me. They're not here to bring order and and organization back to the city, right? After they bomb and blow and kill and do all the stuff that they do, then yes, that stuff is possible, right? You get that order and all that. Then it's another group that come in and do the cleanup right afterward. But you're coming in to destroy, right? Not just destroy. You're not coming to correct. You're coming to eliminate, right? Your problem that you said it's a problem for, the people. So for him to say that, out of his mouth, and I said, if they fight the National Guards, guess who's coming next? To Army, it's the Marines, right? He's talking about bypassing that now. I guess we could just send them there as training. He said, because I have the right to use them for foreign and domestic threats. And he's deeming what's going on in these cities as a domestic threat. I could say what's going on in some of these cities and the killings and all that stuff is a travesty, right? I could say it's a epidemic, like they call it the fentanyl and opioid crisis, right? It's a crisis. Some type of intervention need to be put in place to try to curb this, right? But for you to say I'm gonna put the military in there, you're not even trying to fix it. You just want to eliminate the problem, right? Wipe those people out. So, like I said, y'all, you see U.S. military on U.S. soil using force against U.S. citizens. That's a problem. And it's a problem that I hate that I even mention, because I think, like, when you mention things like this, it's manifested, right? So I think that I put a battery or something like that into the atmosphere, I would say, like that he's thinking about sending military in, right? Because you don't know if this gonna work or if that gonna work. But then you're figuring out, like right now, these cities like Chicago and Memphis and all them, they kind of violent. These guys are walking around with guns like the military. So, and then they brains not thinking like normal, regular people be thinking, right? Their brains are thinking like, you come down here talking that, we gonna show you. We'll wipe you. You know what I'm saying? They ready to fight and go back and forth. But when you do that, right, and they don't understand this, like I said, because it's a lack of leadership, in a lot of these places, right? A lack of older people, you know what I'm saying, actually holding people accountable and making them see things and making them see another way, right? In Washington, D.C., those crimes was about poverty. It was about people not having money, right? It's easy. You could solve that situation by putting more opportunities in Washington, D.C., right? Putting other resources up in there where you don't have homeless out there. And then now the crime can be deterred because these people have another way to make a living other than carjacking somebody, stealing somebody's car and doing this and that. When you put the National Guards down there to patrol the street, you can curb that. But how do you curb somebody killing somebody or mad talking about they want to get back because their cousin or their best friend just died in their face? How do you stop that? How do you curb that? You can't curb that with money, even though poverty is a problem in these areas, Chicago, I think, there's more percentage of population there that's living under the poverty line than it is people who living above it or even at it, meeting it. So I think putting resources and things like that in those areas will help. But I also feel like that's not the only thing that's going to help. You need the gang interrupters. They are out there, but they need funding. You cutting funding from everything. And your only solution is, let me send the army out there so we can do this, so we can do that, right? It's so terrible in Chicago. It's so terrible in Memphis. It's so terrible everywhere. But on January 6th in Washington, D.C., it was so terrible in Washington, D.C. that you need to send the National Guards there to stop people from carjacking and stealing and thefts and all that type of stuff, right? But it wasn't terrible for you it wasn't serious enough for you to send National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. when they was tearing up the Capitol. when those people was trying to overthrow the government because you lost in an election that you know you lost, but you just didn't want to accept defeat, so you actually incited the riot. So yeah, go over there and be peaceful. You know they wasn't finna be peaceful. Your rallies are not peaceful. The way that you speak is not peaceful. The rhetoric that you put out there is not peaceful. So they're not going to go over there and assemble in the right way. You knew they wasn't. You knew they was going to go over there and do everything that they did. And what if they got in that building? What if they got to those Congress people? What if they got to Pence? They put a makeshift noose in front of the Capitol building, right? What if they got him and his family and brought them out there and put them up and strung them up by a noose, right? What justification can you put out there to say that the National Guard shouldn't have been there? When they kept telling y'all to deploy him, I think he had to deploy him to get them there. His life was that much in danger or at threat. But you didn't see nothing wrong with that, right? You didn't see anything wrong with it. You didn't have a problem with that, but it's a problem with deaths and crime, but that's a poverty problem. Like I said, that is not a crime murdering type problem. So you could have solved that without the National Guards, right? You could have solved that by giving the mayor more resources to actually combat that, right? Same thing you can do in Chicago. Same thing you can do in Memphis. You got them down there in Portland fighting people. Portland is a poor problem as well. It's encampment entrance cities, right? He got online and asked him about the lady in Minnesota. I stay in Minnesota right now, y'all. That's what I speak on. The House Speaker in Minnesota, which I don't know who that. Why they didn't have the flags half mast, but they had it for Charlie Kirk. Oh, I don't know who that is. Oh, the governor didn't act. How do you not know who your Congress people is? How do you not know who your government officials are? You don't care. It doesn't have to do with you not knowing. You don't care. Walz was running with Harris. Regardless of whatever you want to try to say with your relationship and this and that with being the president, you have a problem with him. And I don't care what nobody else saying that if they're not careful, even right here in Minnesota, they're going to start sending those people here because they call it all sanctuary cities. New York, that's coming. Minnesota, they may be coming. Like I said, I hate to speak this stuff and put it in the atmosphere, but I think people need to wake up and pay attention to what's going on. And what's going on is, this is a problem, you guys. We have a president who's authoritarian, who's enforcing authoritarian rules, right? This is the type of stuff that you see in countries where communism reigns supreme, where it's a dictatorship, like Russia. You telling people, if you don't go to my will or bend to what I'm saying, then you're going to have your job. You won't do this or you won't do that if you don't bow to me. You don't bend a knee to me or follow what I'm trying to do, right? That's what a dictator say. You're talking about Putin. They can't even have freedom of speech in Russia. They snatching people out of their homes on live. That's like right now I'm doing this live, and a bunch of people, army or the police or whatever, run up in here, the government, and snatch me off of this live because I'm speaking what I'm speaking right now, right? But we're coming to a point to where it's getting there. And my thing is, people, we have to open up our eyes and pay attention to what's going on, right? I'm not calling Trump Hitler. I'm not calling anybody that, but those people voted Hitler in. Just like we voted Trump in, right? They voted in a person who ended up being the worst thing for them. And I think that we might have just repeated history, but on the western side of the world. I don't want to keep dragging this on and on, you guys, but like I said, I spoke to this. You got the brother, Louis Farrakhan, speaking on it, and maybe I can't reach as many people as him, but maybe you guys can listen to what he's saying, because I agree with what he's saying. You can't do this. To do this, you're showing that we don't really matter, right? You showing that our life is not worth much, right? And you showing hypocrisy because you didn't send them when it was an immediate threat against the system, you got. This was an immediate threat against the system. These people was tearing up the Capitol, trying to get into the building to do what? Everybody, I want everybody to ask themselves that question. What do you think they was trying to get in that building to do? And if they got in that building, what do you think they would have done? That's all I got for today, y'all. It's Enski's opinion. I ask for you guys to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can get notified for things like this when I do decide to come on and do a live and stream live to you guys, something that I feel like I need to speak on. I think I will be doing more lives in the future, especially trying to stay on trending topics. I will still continue to make my videos that I could go more in depth with. I can do a little bit more research on stuff that I want to touch on that I don't touch on right away, or it's not touched on right away, to come back. Some of the stuff I spoke on today has been out there. You know, the Diddy sentence just happened yesterday, so that's kind of new. The thing with Trump and them has been going on for a few days. That's kind of new. Farrakhan just made that announcement yesterday. These are new. These are things I wanted to speak to today, so I felt I needed to come on live. Anytime I feel like I need to do that, I will be doing this more. That is my time for today. I enjoyed being with you guys. Like I said, follow, subscribe, like, notification bell. Enski's opinion. I'm out.